You are now listening to the Serious Growth Podcast with your host, Leo Costa Jr.
Hey, Mark, are you getting through all this nonsense or what?
It's tough, but we're doing what we have to do to get through.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, to say that this is one for the times is an understatement, isn't it?
I never thought we'd be living through times like this. You know, this is something that, you hear about in history books and you learn about it, but to actually go through it is...
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was scary because I'm at the age now where I've seen some things. As you get older, you're going to see more stuff, obviously. But, I came through the times when Ebola was going to kill us all and AIDS and the swine flu, all these, which they didn't. But I've never seen anything. I mean, it was eerie. I remember the day that they shut us down here, March 11. I bet you I'll never forget that day. I bet you won't forget it either.
No, never.
It's one of those things that's traumatic.
Yeah.
And when I drove, because I was lucky, and we'll talk about this. I was lucky because I had a small studio.
Right.
And it wasn't mandated at that point, and it never has been here. But driving to work that next day, it was eerie. It's like a ghost town.
The roads were dead. Yeah.
And from what I've seen on television in New York, even watching it on TV, it's got to be a lot worse in person to see nothing going on there, huh?
It's indescribable.
It is.
The roads are just abandoned. It looks like a movie set where there's nothing going on. And I've never seen New York like this before.
Scary, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that in LA too, down there. But golly, man. My dad once told me, he said, strong survive. I mean, he's not the one that came up with that saying, but, it's kind of true. The strong do survive. But unfortunately,
we will get through it.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of collateral damage, I think.
It's unmeasurable at this point. I mean, we have no idea what we're going back into after we come out of this, what the other side's going to look like.
Yeah. So anyway, I see that you're in your bio, you're a personal trainer and a licensed sports nutritionist and a promoter. So you do quite a few things. And I see that you got into this, I guess, because of your brother.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, my brother's nickname was Abs. So he's about 6 years older than me. And, hearing his friends call him that all the time, to me, I was like, I want to be like my big brother one day.
Right.
And I would sneak down in the basement and I'd peek around the corner and I'd watch him working out. And then when he was done or he wasn't home, I would go down there and I would try to emulate what he was doing. But yeah, he was always my inspiration as a kid growing up.
Is he still into training, your brother?
No, not at all. Not at all.
He's not called Abs anymore?
Not anymore, no. I remind him of it often, but not anymore.
Does it piss him off enough to get back into it? Apparently not.
Once in a while, he'll stop by the gym, and you can see he still has that, he's got a little fire in his eyes still for it.
Yeah.
So I think it's only a matter of time before he commits and gets back to it.
Yeah. It's funny. So as a personal trainer, as far as getting into the business, did you start as a personal trainer or did you go right into the open gyms?
So I got a job at Strong and Shapely Gym in East Rutherford. And at first I got hired to work the front desk while I studied and, hopefully get certified at the time.
Yeah.
And once I got certified, Bob Bonham kind of threw me to the wolves there.
Yeah.
And I started out, working the desk and doing personal training at Strong and Shapely.
Now, did they feed you clients or were you forced already at that point to market and do all that kind of stuff?
So I was there a few months before I was actually certified. So I was able to talk with a lot of people. And once I got certified, I remember I went in one morning and there were messages all over the front desk. Mark, call this person about training. Mark, this person paid for training. Mark, and I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget doing my first session. It was an hour-long session.
Yeah.
Man, it must have lasted about an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And when I finished, Bob said to me, "Is everything all right? What happened?" And I said, "Yeah, no, it went great." And I looked at the time, and I was like, "Oh wow, I gotta tighten up on that." It's not something that anybody ever teaches you is how to get through the workout on the clock.
Right. Well, and the thing about that is I remember it's kind of traumatic in a way too. I remember my first training session with somebody, and I didn't go into a gym setting. I was always just, I decided to become a personal trainer after being coaxed by still my business partner back then. He got me into competing, and the next thing I know, I was doing this personal training. But man, I tell you what, the first time that I had somebody, because I trained in other gyms, I didn't have one myself.
Right.
And I talked to the other gyms at that time back in '82. They were okay with me coming in and bringing a client, and they were okay with it until I got really busy, and then I started getting greedy. But oh man, I was like, I stayed up at night. I was writing this whole program out. It was very detailed. Of course, it's like, I remember Mike Tyson once said, you do all this training, that it all changes when you take that first shot at the chin.
Right.
All of a sudden it's like, holy crap, you're overwhelmed, and again, you adapt or die, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't really have a choice. Once you're in there, you make it work.
Yeah.
Once I left Strong and Shapely, I built up a pretty good clientele there, and I went out on my own, and I had other companies hiring me, for people that they couldn't get to. I guess at the time, right around 2000, 2001, in-home training around here was very, very busy. So I'd be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd be heading an hour away out into the middle of nowhere to see clients, and then back into New York City to see clients by 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was renting space at World Gym out there. I don't know if there's ever even a World Gym around anymore.
Yeah, but I don't think so.
I was lucky enough to have the ability to rent space from them, which is how, when I opened my gym, I remembered, hey, that was a pretty good gig. Let some other trainers in to train people there.
Yeah. Okay, so when you first got into it, then when you went out on your own, so you actually went into a World Gym, is that what you said?
Right.
And then
you rented
space
there.
So how did that work out? I mean, I'm seeing World Gym as just a big box gym.
Yeah, I knew a lot of people in the industry, and when I went in to talk to the owner about renting space, he was a little bit reluctant at first, but then he agreed to do it. So
so when you're talking
that well,
when you're talking about renting space, I mean, you could use the whole space,
the whole gym.
Oh, okay.
Just like it's mine.
Gotcha. Okay. And were you like the first one doing that, or he just did that with a bunch of trainers?
I think I may have been the first one doing that there.
Yeah.
And then he started bringing in some other trainers and it picked up pretty quick.
Yeah. So how did you determine what your value was, as far as what were you charging, or were you did you have to follow the guidelines of the gym that you were working in?
No, I was completely on my own to charge, whatever I felt fit, and at the time, I mean, nowadays a lot of people do half-hour sessions,
right? And
back then there was no such thing as a half-hour session. It was an hour. So I guess I was getting like between 60 and 70 an hour back then.
Yeah. That's like good.
2001.
Yeah, that's good. Really good.
Yeah.
And then what did
the rates haven't really changed too much.
Oh, they haven't? Yeah. So what did that entail for, if I'm coming to you and, as a trainer, what am I getting for that?
Back then, you saw me for that hour that I was with you, 2-3 days a week.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing much nutritional counseling back then. I didn't have my license yet, so I dabbled a little bit, made some, recommendations, which was all I was legally allowed to do. Yeah. But it's just paying for your time, really. I'd set them up with their programs. Anybody who, if they had workouts that they were doing on their own, on the off days, I'd follow up with them with that. Yeah. I was always very, very customer service oriented.
Yeah.
What happens to my clients outside of the gym is very important to me.
Right.
Because the more I know about them outside, the more I'm able to help them inside.
Right. And the thing about it is, because I learned that too when I first got into my own place, because obviously being out there and going from gym to gym, I was perfecting my craft. And I got some really good advice early on from a guy. He told me, you know what? He goes, when you're going out to get clientele, go to your friends and family to begin with. Because he said,
I never did that.
Yeah. Because he said that.
Never did that. I felt funny doing that, to be honest with you. I was more comfortable approaching a complete stranger and begging him to give me a shot. Yeah. So that's the way I kind of got started, to kind of perfect my craft, because I look back now compared to when I first started. I mean, I offer much better service because you evolve along the way. So I was just curious what they were getting for that hour. Now, as you said that you got your license in nutrition, right? Yeah, sports nutrition. Sports nutrition. So what does that mean? You went to school and you studied or something like that? Back in 2000, 2001, it was a distance education program, and then you had to sit for a board exam. Yeah. Which was probably the most stressful thing ever. Yeah. They're throwing scenarios at you, and you have to be on point with your answers. And you can't prepare for that. And that translates back into your practice. You know, you never know what somebody's going to come in and tell you or ask you or, you know, divulge about themselves. So that definitely prepared me moving forward, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah. Because that's real world. That's what's going to happen when you're out there. You know, it's good to know that. When you started training like that, are you a bodybuilder? Were you training back then?
So, yeah, I was always into training. I never stepped on stage at that point. You know, it's just my passion. You know, we live this, we breathe this, you know, everything we do, you know, we're reading and studying. But no, getting on stage at that point it wasn't really in the cards. Yeah. And that wasn't my aspiration at the time. You know, I was trying to build a business, and I wanted to be a good businessman, provide a good service. Yeah.
Well, you know, something half the battle, because I can feel your energy and your enthusiasm for what you're doing. And that's really half the battle. You know, one of the things I've been in this industry now for 38 years. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And I've always had personal training studios. And, you know, you go through these up and down times. But one of the things that my clients always knew that translated to them was their goals and that they had were as important to me as they were to them. And they felt that, you know what I mean? Even if I didn't really have all the knowledge at that point, I had the energy. And I used to tell them, I said, look, if I can't answer, if you ask me a question I can't answer, I'm not going to bullshit you. Okay.
No, it's not worth bullshitting somebody for what?
No. Yeah. And I said, but give me 24 hours, you know? Right. And I just did it that way. So I was kind of learning on the job, but I was pretty authentic that way. And it sounds like that's what you were doing too.
Yeah. You know, in this business, you know, the fitness industry is a small world. As popular as it is still a small world. And, you know, if I give bad advice or, you know, I don't get somebody the results that they're looking for, that's going to affect my business. So it's in my best interest to make sure the clients are getting the results that they need.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I was always like that. I remember one of my very first clients who asked me to help her with a diet. She wasn't really eating much, you know, calories were very low. So I set up her plan. She said, Mark, she goes, I'm going to get fat eating all this food. I said to her, Shelly, I'm not going to let you get fat. I promise you. I said, it's not a good look for you. It's not a good look for me. We're not going to let you get fat.
Right.
But Leo, that night I went home, I went to sleep. I had a nightmare about her. Her head was larger than life with these fish lips, and her eyes were real squinty. She couldn't see because her head was so fat. I woke up in a cold sweat. And from that morning forward, I always said to myself, I have to explain each and every step I'm taking with every client from here on out so they understand exactly where we're going.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I went and saw her in the gym that day, I told her about the nightmare. We were laughing about it. But to this day, she actually reminds me of it.
Well, I think it's a good nightmare because, you know, I had something similar because basically you're taking stuff before this nightmare that you had, we kind of take stuff a little bit for granted because we're in it, but we don't necessarily see it from the other person's perspective sometimes, you know. I remember a story, this is early on, and I worked with somebody, and I always made it a point to get back to them the next day to see how they felt. That was just part of what I did.
Right.
And I called this guy, and I said, so how's it going? And he goes, oh, my God, I ended up in the emergency room last night. I'm thinking, look, Mark, at this point, I never pushed anybody that hard. I knew good enough to just take it, you know, especially the first time out. It was very conservative. And he says, oh, yeah, I was in an emergency room. So what the hell happened? You know, I mean, we didn't do anything that much. But here was the point. He wasn't an athlete. He was someone that never did exercise. He didn't know what the hell that soreness felt like. He thought he was hurt.
Right.
I didn't even think of that shit.
Which brings you back to, you know, we have to see it from the other person's perspective.
Exactly.
And that brings you back to the point what I said. We need to explain each and everything that we're going to do with a client and make them understand why we're doing it, what reasons we're doing it, what the the repercussions of what we do have on them.
Yep.
You know, so first time, you know, somebody comes in and they've never worked out before. Yeah, we have to go through that. Like, you're going to be sore. And no matter how easy we go, because you're not used to moving like this.
Right. And that's listen, and for a lot of personal trainers, because I've seen too many of them, and there's a reason why 95% of the people in the industry don't make it. There's a reason for that, you know, because it takes discipline to get to the point that you're talking about, the discipline to do that over and over again and not to take that for granted and just mail your program in. so to
Right.
speak. You know, you got to
Right.
be willing to do that, and it takes energy. And
Yeah.
but it's very smart. It's because hopefully everybody learns that lesson that you and I have learned. Because
Yeah,
I've never forgot
the
about
faster
that.
the better, or learn from guys like us that have been doing it for forever. So
Yeah.
they don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and one of the things I really like doing, because I got into the industry actually because of my business partner now, 30 years in another business. You know, he told me to compete, and you know, I was back in my wheelhouse because I felt like I was an athlete again.
Right.
And the fact that I had firsthand experience because I competed, I always thought that really helped me in my personal training business, because I could tell that person potentially, this is how you're going to feel, because I know that. I think for me, that was something that was a powerful message to my client. And they go, okay, and put him more at ease, you know,
Right.
to trust you, because you got to have them trust you, because I don't know about you, but there's things that you have to do with your clients sometimes that's very counterintuitive, and it really drives them out of their comfort zone, or, you know, they've been talked to a certain way. I've learned it this way.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're coming in and go, no, that was all wrong. Or, you know, you're saying that in an indirect way, but you're still saying that.
You know, and sometimes, you know, we especially with competitors, we're having them do something leading into a show, and then all of a sudden, like, we put the brakes on, like, now I need you to do this.
Right.
And it makes them nervous. So again, that brings me back to the point where I'll never just blindly give somebody a plan and say, here, just follow it. Don't ask me any questions.
Right.
No, this is what we're doing, and here's why. And then sometimes I have to beg, please just trust me on this.
Right.
You know, because like, but we've never done something like that before. Okay. But yeah, you know, gaining somebody's trust is probably the most important thing, and especially when you're trying to get results. The client has to trust you.
Yeah, especially with me. I mean, it was with people that had never worked out before. They had their own fears and concerns. But for me, it was always a bigger challenge dealing with athletes, and especially professional athletes, because you know, they've been around a little bit and they've had trainers, and ooh, man, I mean, that was a tricky relationship, because you had to maintain being the person in charge, even though they're making $1 zillion. And they think they know more than you do, even though they hired you. I don't know if that happened to you, but it happened to me.
I was working with the New Jersey Red Dogs when I first got into this arena football team, and like I was young, I was new. You know, they all thought they knew better than me, but watching them do their workouts on their own was a nightmare. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
and
brutal.
You know, but I've always had a knack for, you know, getting someone to earn my trust relatively quickly, you know, whether it was through just conversation or, you know, a demonstration, or, hey, this is what you're doing, this is what could happen, let's try it this way and see how you feel. So I was always very lucky that way, where I would immediately get that trust, which was very good.
Yeah, you know, in my studio, I've come up with a handbook. I certify trainers too, so I came up with a handbook. And one of the things I talk about is I say, look, a really great personal trainer has to wear a lot of hats. You have to be a trainer, you have to be a coach, you have to be a shrink. You know, you have to be tough sometimes. You have to have all those hats and know when to use them.
Right.
And I did over the years, because if you're just that person that's just somebody who's a professional rep counter and you don't have any these other bedside manners, you're dead in the water. I think you would agree with that, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You know,
or you're really limited as to the group of people that you end up working with. It really limits your scope of people.
It does. So, you know, the one thing that I find that, you know, has definitely helped in my practice is, you know, not so much being the shrink, but we have to constantly find those limitations on why they weren't getting results. Right. And work through those. And some of those issues can be really deep.
Yeah. Really deep.
Yeah. So maybe 80% of the time we're playing shrink.
Yeah.
You know, and whether it's to motivate them or to keep them focused or just help them through their day. To get the results that they're looking for.
Yeah. And that was one of the reasons. And again, in my handbook, I had a real problem with these trainers that are just walking around with clipboards and are just simply logging in reps and what they did last time. And that just totally pissed me off, because
that lasted about a week for me.
Yeah. And I said, no, even my trainers in here, no clipboards. I don't want you doing that, because I want you to pay attention to that client. They may be having a really bad day, and then you have them do some stuff that they can't do. They're not going to want to come in and see you. That's bullshit. No. You know? And that's part of that, where you got to use your head and be in tune with that client.
Yeah. I had clients, you know, this one guy I'll never forget. he would always book. He wanted my first available spot every Saturday morning. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I saw him twice during the week, first thing Saturday morning. And the first couple Saturdays went just like any other night would. He'd come in, he'd get ready, we'd warm up, get through our workout, bullshit a little bit after our workout, and off he'd go. Then he came in, he was a few minutes late on a Saturday, and he goes, do you think we could just sit and talk today?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, what's going on? And, then he started, I'm just really stressed out with my job and this and that. He's like, on my way here, I stopped, I had coffee and donuts. He's like, I didn't really want to make that choice, but that's what I did. But he just wanted that outlet.
Yeah.
And it became like an every Saturday morning thing where he was no longer working out on Saturday mornings. It was like a debriefing for him for the week.
Right.
Just get it all off his chest. And he was more thankful for that time than the time we spent on the gym floor.
Yeah.
What this does for people mentally.
Yeah, it's immeasurable.
It's huge.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And I talk about this a lot, because I've had clients with me, Mark, 18, 20 years. That's a long time. It's like a damn, being married to him in a way.
Yeah.
Right? A little bit. I mean, some of these people, they spend more time here than they do at home sometimes.
That's right.
So you get to know them on that kind of level. But the funny thing was, and I've noticed, is that, originally when people come to you, I'll speak from my own experiences. It's all about their goals that they have, and the reason why they're coming to you is for these reasons.
Right.
As you develop their relationship, or as I've developed a relationship with these people, the goals and the that they originally came in for, and those types of things actually become almost secondary, because I develop a relationship with them, and we talk about other things besides the workout. And keep in mind, this is where you still have to have the discipline, because you still have to think, I got to give this person what they originally came in for, is to give them a great workout and a great program. And yet we're doing all this other stuff like what you're talking about.
Yeah. And for that reason and that reason only, I'm not a big fan of online coaches, online training. I can't justify it in my head. Telling the client, okay, well, send me $200 or $250, through PayPal, and I'm going to send off your program, and you're going to send me pictures in a week through my email. I mean, it could work, and it does work, and we've all done a little bit of that. But these full-time online coaches, they're never going to develop those relationships, and they're never going to find out what those limiting factors really are.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how successful you could be long-term. Working that way.
I agree, and that blows me away when I hear so. I'm skeptical now by nature, but even more the longer I'm in, I'm old and cranky, and I'm skeptical.
Right.
You got to really sell me on stuff, and I'm with you on that. I think that there's people out there that are making a living at it, but I have a hard time believing that the ones that are really saying that they are because of what you're saying. I know how hard it is to be in front of that person and to keep them going, more than 3 or 6 months. It's tricky.
Sometimes it's, if you're working on a floor with a client and they're having a bad day, sometimes they're not looking for you to, hey, come on, Sally, 5 more reps. That's not what they're looking for.
No, that's right.
And online, you're not getting that. I'm getting, a picture of you first thing in the morning, and I'm going to send you an email saying, okay, well, let's, make these changes, not realizing like, hey, well, maybe Sally was all stressed out the past 3 days and fell off of her plan and didn't divulge that information to me. You can't always just be there as a cheerleader. You also need to be there as a confidant.
That's right. No, that's right. It's tricky. And again, one of the things I like about what you said, there's one word that sticks in my mind. I think what separates the good trainers from the great ones is the great ones tell their client why they're doing something. The good ones don't, because they don't have enough information themselves. That's just the bottom line. And you told me that early on in the show that you tell them why. Huge. I know you're legit. I know you're legit as hell. Now, as you're going through this process now, when did you decide to open up your Extreme Gym?
Extreme Gym. So I opened in 2013. 3 years prior to that, so maybe 2009 or 10, I was toying with the idea of opening my own studio. And the space I looked at, I thought at the time, it's too big for a studio. Then some places were too small, and I was just like, whatever. I was working full time. I was in law enforcement for a while.
Oh, okay.
And I just kind of put the whole studio on the back burner. I was diagnosed with PTSD, and I left law enforcement. And with that, I said, I got to do something, full time.
Yeah.
Like, training people's fine and doing nutrition is fine, but I'm not traveling to people's houses all over the place like a 20-year-old trainer does. I'm well beyond that point in life. And I said, you know what? I think I'm just going to make that leap, and I'm going to open a gym. Not even a personal training studio. I'm going full blown here.
Yeah.
And I opened up in 2013. It's the best thing I ever could have done.
Nice. I'm sure that helped your condition too.
Yes. It honestly, it saved my life.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
Yeah, the workouts, and I actually had a coach,
Yeah.
at the time when I was going through all this, and if it wasn't for him in the gym, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, I totally get you, man, because I've said it before. Bodybuilding saved my life.
Yeah.
In more than one way. I mean, athletics did, but especially bodybuilding. It's that, as you know, that regimen, even if you don't compete, but when you're in that kind of a regimen, there's so much that
it's giving you that posive outlet.
Yeah.
And the cascade of hormones and endorphins through your workouts.
Oh yeah.
It all, you can't beat it. You can't beat it.
Nope.
Exercise is the best medicine.
I totally agree with you. In fact, when all this happened, I took some heat because I never shut down. And like I said, I believe in dumb luck, and I believe in that saying that I'd rather be lucky than good, because I've always had smaller studios. This one here is about 2,600 feet, so I've always kept it like that.
Right.
And because of that, I was able to easily comply with the guidelines, at least out here in California at the time. Of course, they were changing every fucking hour,
Right.
It seemed like. But I was lucky that I never shut down that way,
That's great.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of other people didn't have that luxury. So when you got into your gym, how big of square footage was that?
The first place I started at was right around 3,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So it was tight. It worked, and because it was brand new, I think being so small, people overlooked the size, and it was all glitz and glamour.
Yeah.
We've since left there, and now the location we're in now, we're around 8,000 square feet. So big difference. We only added a few pieces, and almost triple in size.
Yeah.
But this is definitely better. We have great, functional training area here, a lot of office space, pro shop. So we're utilizing the space the best we could.
Yeah. So now with this, that goes on, because you never can predict what's going to happen, throughout your career. You can't. And certainly this is one of those examples. But I mean, do you think that if you, and again, I don't know if you had a place inside your facility now where you're just doing personal training, or are you doing it in your open gym setting?
So I have the space in the gym where I could do just personal training. However, some people that come to the gym for personal training, whether, that weren't referred to me, they just happen to be in the gym.
Yeah.
They're not comfortable in the gym. So why segregate them and put them somewhere where they're going to be trained? Let's get them used to the gym floor, so eventually they can go out on their own and be able to utilize it and feel comfortable there.
Yeah. So you're saying that they didn't feel comfortable being in that, like their own space?
They absolutely feel comfortable being secluded.
Okay.
But I want people to step out of their comfort zone, get used to being in the gym, working out around other people.
Yeah. But do you think that, like in this case now, where you've had this now with the pandemic, where they closed all you guys down, do you think that if you had a smaller space that you could have kept your place open?
So I reached out to the mayor of my town and asked him, listen, physical therapy offices are open. They have 8 people, 10 people in there at a time, numerous therapists in small storefronts. I said, listen, I just want to see my clients one-on-one. Is that something that's allowed? So he reached out to the governor, and the governor's office came back to him and said, no, personal training and one-on-one training is prohibited. And I'm like, this really doesn't make much sense.
Right.
So with that, I couldn't really see anybody. It's tough. They're pretty tough here.
Well, and again, some of the stuff that happened here. So listen. Again, I know it's different in different spots of the country, but like one of the things I noticed here was when Newsom came out and told us that we had to shut down. It was, if you read the fine print and the articles and everything in the paper, it was suggested. It looked like it was mandated. And the thing about that is, Mark, is that the people that are just following orders without questioning, they just said, "Well, I got to go away."
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why you would do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been looking into everything, and it is suggested. It's a guideline to follow.
Yeah.
It's not hey, stay in your home or you're going to jail. It's like, hey,
right.
We recommend you stay in your home, stay away from as many people as possible.
Yeah.
To flatten the curve.
Exactly.
I was actually amazed at the amount of people, honestly, that all lost their jobs.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me these companies are like, the hell with it, we don't need anybody working here anymore? Right. Do they not have plans on coming back? Or are they trying to take advantage of the time to say, well, hey, we're going to let everybody work from home. We're going to work on a minimal staff. And now they're getting the same things done.
Right. So
I don't know what's going on with it. I don't like where we're heading, for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons. But people are just blindly following along with this.
Yep, and that's something, and that's one of the things I've always this kind of, I call it the serious growth creed. I just came up with a creed, and one of those things is being a student of the game. So I have to know everything about my business. That means watching the news for 3 hours a day, as awful as it was, to
right.
see how I could fit in and keep myself going.
Right.
But because I had the police that came in here with me, and here's an example. I was categorized. They came to the gym. They said, "Look, we want to tell you that we can't shut you down." I already knew that, so I wasn't
right.
frightened by that shit,
Right.
And they said, "But you are a gym." I said, "No, I'm not. Come into my office and I'll tell you why." I had to educate them. Not that I had to educate them, but I had to set them straight. You're
right.
putting me in a category that I'm not. I understand because I'm complying. I understand what you're saying, sir. But I can control my clientele. I can follow those guidelines. And they said, well, don't be surprised if the health department doesn't come in and shut you down. I said, that's okay. Because I wasn't going to walk out of here. They're going to have to drag my ass out of here, and it better be mandated, because that was not something that was sitting well with me. Now, again, if I was in a bigger gym, it might be a bigger challenge, but I would have thought that maybe even if I had a bigger gym, I'm thinking, how could I make it? Well, at that point, if I had the skill level, which you do, I would just turn it into personal training. Your overall clientele might take a hit because you have a lot of members.
Right.
But you know what, Mark? The thing about it is this. Over here, my business dropped 50%. But because I'm smaller, I could lean way down, and at least I was able to make it. We're not making money,
right.
But at least we can keep
surviving.
Our damn doors open.
Right.
And then it's like they scare the shit out of somebody so badly. Then you wonder, I'm sure you're thinking about this. It's like, how this is talking about gaining people's trust now. How can you gain their trust again to come back into a gym setting? For fuck's sake, some people haven't left their damn house.
No, I know. I have, a woman that lives real close to here. She has 2 teenage boys. I haven't seen the kids come out of the house.
Oh.
So I said to her one day, I saw her outside. I said, where are your boys? And she told me, Mark, it's so sad. They're scared to come out of the house because they've seen everything on the news.
Yeah.
They don't even want to come out of the house. And I'm saying, son of a bitch, there's more harm being caused right now that may never be talked about, may never come up, but the measures that have been put in place are causing way more harm than good at this point.
Oh, brutal. It is absolutely brutal.
It's sad. It's sad.
It really is.
These kids need to be outside playing and anything. But you can't sit in the house all the time.
Exactly, and hide. You know, the thing about that is that social media is so different now. You know, I came up during a time where social media wasn't. We didn't have any, right? And it's so funny how things are different. I've always taken heat in the industry because I'm not mainstream. I'm more counter. I go against the grain, not for the sake of it, but I do it because I think it's right and I can prove it. That's
Right.
the reason why I do things sometimes against the grain, or a lot of times. But you know, it's so different now with this fucking social media. And I think social media is good. But in this case, when I decided to stay open, I got people taking pictures of my business and they're putting it on social media and saying, why is this business open? Like, what the fuck? If you have a problem with me, come over here. Come over here.
Exactly.
Because I'll go over there.
Yeah, everybody's ratting out, people ratting out their neighbors and calling the cops for crazy things. There was a woman in New Jersey. It was just in the newspaper. I didn't read it in the newspaper. I read it online.
Yeah.
But she was in her store. She was doing a Facebook Live video sale of, she had like a gift shop. So, candles and cards and whatnot. Right. Police came while she was Facebook Live, shut her down, told her she couldn't operate her business, that she was open. She's like, actually, I'm not open. I'm selling on video.
Yeah.
Well, you can't do that. That means you're open.
God. Oh, God.
So,
brutal.
We don't ever want to get mad at the cops for this. And,
right. They're just doing their job.
Being in law enforcement, like sometimes you're given an order and you follow your last standing order.
Right.
Whether you agree with it or not, that's your job. Right. But the one thing that people aren't talking about, police do have discretion.
Right.
Right? You've been pulled over for speeding before. They have some discretion.
Right.
I'll write you for a seatbelt instead today.
Right.
Slow it down.
Yeah.
Same thing with showing up to a business owner. Like, all right, listen, I'm going to give you your warning today.
Yeah.
I see there's no customers in here. You're obviously not open. I did my part. Somebody called. I came.
Right.
We're going to start exercising a little discretion. And same what we do with clients, right? We're not going to treat every client the same. We have to have discretion.
Right. Yeah, I know. And it's driven me crazy. One of the things I did, and again, I was just playing along the game of the social media. The person that actually did this was not too far away from me because I'm at a strip mall where everybody else is closed, but Leo, we're open. And that pissed people off. I knew it was going to take heat for that, but I said, I think just like what you said, what's the best place? Where's the best place to be to build your immunity and to clear your head, but to be inside of a gym? Right. As long as the gym is clean and you're following the guidelines, it's the best place to be,
Yeah.
Or is it better? Safe. Yeah, you should. Yeah, because at that point, and this is like day number 2, I said, is it better? Because I saw this when I drove home. So you're telling me it's better to go out here in front of one of these big box stores, like a grocery stores, standing in fucking line. Oh, that's better to do that. It makes no sense. And I think this is what we've lost to a degree is common sense because of what you're saying.
Yeah, most people don't have it anymore. The only common sense they have is what they're being told.
Yep.
It's sad and more people are being divided now than coming together.
Yeah.
After 9/11. Nobody was mean to anybody. You weren't getting cut off. Nobody was giving you the finger in traffic.
Right.
And that brought people close. It took a tragedy for that to happen.
Yeah.
And now here we are with something, I guess, worse, for lack of a better word.
In some ways.
In some ways. And people are more divided now than ever.
Right.
You have neighbors ratting on neighbors, people calling the police because somebody's not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know their story. You don't know why they're not wearing a mask.
Right.
You may not know why, they haven't left their house or why they refuse to wear a mask. It's crazy times. It's sad to see this happen. I wish every day and pray every day that this would be over fast.
Yeah. I talk about, with clients sometimes, I think this is sort of the same way now of this social media. If you put your hands in your life in somebody else's hands completely, without question, you have to be willing to suffer the dire consequences in some cases,
right.
And I just feel like this is in some of this right now that's going on. And I think, again, I'm not bagging on social media. I use it, for my own benefit. But when it gets to the point where you're being socially shamed and this, that, and it's like, man, I don't like this. This doesn't feel right.
Now being in business nowadays, unfortunately, social media is it's a necessity, and the way you react to things on social media could make or break you,
That's
unfortunately.
Right. That's
you know?
right.
So it's like you have to pick your battles carefully. You have to be careful what you respond to, what you don't respond to,
Right.
and how you respond. You know, when we first got into this, we wanted to get clients results. But now
right.
we have to be social media marketers. We have to be out there doing all this other stuff that we never would have thought we would have been doing.
That's right. That, you know what? If you got Arnold Schwarzenegger once said something about these guys that compete in these shows and they get all pissed off because they always think they're getting screwed. Arnold made a comment one time, and I think it transcends over to business. He said, "You got to learn how to play the game. Stop bitching about it and learn how to play the game. And you're not going to always win. And you might lose. You know, at least that way you have some kind of control, and whatever happens at that point. That's all you can do about it.
Yeah, and bodybuilding is definitely one of those sports where you do have to learn how to play the game.
That's right. So it's subjective, as we know. Anyway, okay, I'm going to talk about because this is my time. So you're putting on a show. Probably the biggest name ever in bodybuilding is Mr. America. So tell me all about that. Now it went away, but when I talked to you on the phone a few days ago, which I didn't know, you told me that the attendance for that thing was like 3,000 people, right?
Yeah. So let's see. In 1977 or 78, they had 3,200 people in attendance. They had a parade with over 100,000 people.
Wow.
This was the show of shows. It's been the show of shows since 1938. Right. Without the Mr. America, there wouldn't be the Mr. Olympia. There wouldn't be the Mr. Universe. There wouldn't be Mr. California. There would be Mr. Nothing.
Yeah.
So this is the event that set the stage literally for our sport, and to have the opportunity to promote it, it's honestly a dream come true at this point. It's what we're making it into this year is a fraction of what we have planned already for 2021.
Yeah. So why did it go away? Did something change in the industry?
So no. So the title kind of sat and nobody was promoting the show. Somebody saw it on the patent website, bought the title back in around 2000, early 2000s. Held it for a couple years. It was run under, I believe, the INBF for a year or two. And then it just sat again. So Bob Bonham owned the title. He sold the title to a guy in Maryland by the name of Bruce Abell, who he's a Gold's Gym guy. He history buff when it comes to the Mr. America and the start of Gold's Gym. Yeah. His passion for it is, I think I'm passionate. He's like over the top. He traveled the country talking to all the former Mr. Americas and interviewing them.
Wow.
But he bought the title. They ran the show 2015 in Rochester, New York, 2016 in Washington, D.C., and in 2016, it was sanctioned by the NGA. The event overall, great. They had, they did feats of strength. They had someone there who held the world record at the time for bench pressing. They had a live band. They took over Six Flags Great Adventure. And it was phenomenal. The bodybuilding part of the show, there was about 30 competitors.
Yeah.
So overall, the sports festival in the weekend, successful. Bodybuilding show, not so successful. 2018, Wayne DeMilia was going to run the show. He's the former promoter of the Mr. Olympia in the IFBB. He promoted that and like champions forever.
Right.
He couldn't really gain the support of the national organizations. There's too much politics, too many egos.
Yeah, for sure.
Couldn't really get it off the ground. And again, it just sat. So this past fall at the Olympia, I was talking with Denny Kakos, and I said, geez, Denny, I said, what our sport really needs? We need the Mr. America. Yeah. We need the Mr. America to bring the organizations together.
Yeah.
And, I told him my vision for it, and what I think he could do for the sport by having that title revived. And, he supported me 100%, even though the show was going to be non-sanctioned. Denny's like family to me. He'll help with whatever I need help with, especially when it comes to this. He loves the sport of bodybuilding, as you know. So I went around and I made contact with the owner of the title. It was a little tough in the beginning. I had his cell phone number. I called him. Voicemail's not set up. I said, okay, I'm going to introduce myself through text. I sent him a text message. A couple weeks goes by. I never hear back from him. this is crazy. So I said, you know what? I'm going to get this guy's home number. I called him at home. I spoke to his wife. For about 20 minutes or a half an hour, she said, I'll give Bruce the message and I'll have him get in touch with you. I hung up the phone and I felt, wow, this is going well.
Yeah.
A few more weeks went by. I didn't hear anything. I get a call in the middle of the day. I'm with a client, always at that time. And it was him calling. I had the number saved. I'm like, shit. So I took the call and we were talking and I told him, I said, listen, I'm interested in buying the title from you. I see that the show's not doing anything. I'd like to buy the title and revive the Mr. America, bring it back to its former glory where it needs to be. Well, I'm not interested in selling the title right now. It means too much to me, blah, blah, blah. So I said, all right. I said, well, what do you think about me running the show this, in 2020? Well, we really have to sit down and talk about it. He's like, I was paying somebody to pull it off. It didn't happen. He was upset about that. So I said, all right. I said, well, when you have time, I'll come down to Maryland. We'll sit, we'll talk, we'll have lunch, whatever we need to do. And let's figure out what we could get done. So with that, he said, okay. So I'm like, all right, well, at least I'm in the door now.
Right,
I'm going to sit and I'm going to talk with the owner of the Mr. America, Bruce Abel. And with any luck, I could pull this thing off and I could either purchase the title or at the very least, run the show.
Right.
So in February, January, we talked again and we made plans to meet in February. I went down and we sat for a couple hours and went around. We talked about his gym. We talked about my gym. We talked about the vision I have for the Mr. American, for natural bodybuilding in general. And he said, listen, you got it. Beautiful. He's like, I like where you're coming from. Let's do it. And everything goes well this year. We have huge plans for the Mr. America. Yeah,
that's awesome. The thing about this is I'm actually talking in another podcast with Ed Connors. You probably know who he is.
Right.
The Gold's Gym. And something, talking about the Mr. America brand. I mean, Iron Man's got a huge brand in the industry. Mr. America, everybody knows about the Mr. America.
Right.
Anybody that's in the industry knows that. And I think that you talk about a really positive thing to have in your corner, man. It couldn't be better than that, I don't think.
No, I can't think of anything that would be better.
No.
Other than making this show into, well, I'll announce it here. My intent is to make this show what the Arnold is, but for natural bodybuilding.
Yeah.
In 2021, we already have, we're gonna have jiu-jitsu tournaments, professional boxing, feats of strength, Moss wrestling, strongman competitions, powerlifting competitions. It's gonna be a weekend-long event. Like you're not gonna want to miss any of it.
Yeah, that's nice.
We've already booked space for it. We're going from, I think we're in 30,000 square feet this year for the event. Yeah. We're going right up to 100,000 square feet for the event for next year. So it should be spectacular.
Nice.
The people that ever thought about competing in the Mr. America, this is the year to do it for a few reasons. Yeah. One, come October, everybody's going to be itching to get out. Our country's so divided right now with the virus and politics. We need to bring people back together. What better way than the Mr. America? The longest running bodybuilding show ever.
Yeah, good point. I think it'll be a huge success, man. And I applaud you for taking that on. I mean, if you're going to go big, you might as well go big, right?
Yeah. I figured out my budget the other night, and it's big.
Yeah, awesome.
It takes passion. It takes a dream. But it takes a whole lot of balls.
Yeah, it does. It really does, man. And I do commend you. So listen, one of the reasons why I do this show is because I like to get the truth out, say it the way it is. And I really appreciate you coming on because I think we got a lot said and done today. And I learned a lot about, I've never met you except for, I talked to you the other day, but I can tell you're one of the good guys in the industry and we need them. We need guys like you, man. We do. And I really hope for the best. I'd like to stay in contact with you because I'd like to be a part of your show, down the road. Absolutely. But more importantly, I really appreciate you taking the time out, especially in these times, and I wish you the best.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay?
Good talking with you.
All right, I'll talk to you next time.
Excellent. So long.
See you, Mark.
Thanks for listening to the Serious Growth Podcast. For more episodes like the one you just listened to, subscribe to us on your mobile podcast app and leave us a review. If you'd like to reach out, you can find us online at seriousgrowth.com. Until next time, train smart and train hard.